Amazing. Tell us about the drug which has actually caused this euphoria, I would suggest it is, and how close you are to having it approved.
Well, there are three things to remember about the drug. First of all, it's what we call a polyvalent vaccine. It's a therapeutic vaccine for treatment of melanoma.
Skin cancer, in other words.
Skin cancer. That's the most aggressive type of skin cancer, which causes the largest number of deaths around the world. And there are just, it's a vaccine which is a soup, in a way, in layman terms, because it has a number of antigens which are injected into the patient's body to stimulate a certain response so that the body, the immune system, can actually take care of the melanoma. That's the first thing to remember. The second thing is that it's for earlier stage patients. Now, most products approved in the market today are targeted at fairly late stage patients. You start with stage 4, the last stage of the condition, and then stage 3 patients.
That's where metastasis has taken place as well.
Exactly, that's right. And the rate of death, actually, for patients who are in stage 4 is something like 70-odd%. It's quite high. So survival rates is only about 22%, I believe, among the stage 4 patients. But our product is targeted at earlier stage patients, stage 2 and stage 3. And for stage 2 patients, at the moment, there's really no solution. What doctors do is they do what we call resection, which means surgery. So you just cut off, because it's fairly localized in stage 2, as you just cut it off. And at the moment, there is only one product which has been approved, and that was in 1995. It's interferon alpha 2b. It's a very quote-unquote toxic product, which means that it has a lot of side effects. And so very few people would choose to use it, and very few doctors would recommend it, because for earlier stage patients, it really is not worthwhile suffering the side effects. And so for stage 2 patients, at the moment, there's really no choice. You either have resection and wait, and there is nothing that you can do.
Remind us, where are you now in the approval process? And once that hurdle is done, when does the drug become available?
We're at the beginning of stage 3, what we call part A of stage 3. And we've just gone through 347 patients in a double-blind placebo against placebo. And we still need to take the data. I mean, we're excited about the data, because the data demonstrate, first of all, as we expected, it's a very safe product, so its side effects are almost exactly the same as placebo. Placebo is almost like taking nothing. Right? Secondly, it demonstrates a fairly significant treatment effect among stage 2 patients, which are the patients that we're trying to go after, and secondly, patients who are below the age of 60. And these patients, generally speaking, I suppose, have an immune system which is still relatively strong, and therefore they may respond a little better. So we're very excited about that.
There are a lot of other drugs for melanoma as well. I mean, Merck has one, Keytruda is one that we come in mind. You mentioned a little about how this vaccine of yours is more about early detection, but how else is it different from the rest in the market right now?
Well, first of all, it's a polyvalent vaccine, which means that it is, as I said, a soup. Secondly, it's off the shelf. The only other cancer vaccine that I know which is on the market is Provenge for prostate cancer. But it's what we call customized medicine. So what people do is they take cells out of a patient, culture them, inject the cells back into the patient's body to stimulate the response, whereas ours is different. Ours is derived from 3 melanoma cell lines. And so these antigens are in a soup, but done in the laboratory, which we then inject into the patient's body. So anyone can take the product, not just the patient from whom the original cells have been taken.
Alan, I've got 2 questions for you in one. First of all, can this, as we get other cancer drugs, of course, they can be used on, can this be used on other cancers? Are you working on that? That's one part of my question. The second part is, you're calling it a vaccine. A vaccine is something that you take when you don't have the symptoms and is preventative. Now, why is it a vaccine if it's going to stage 2 melanoma victims?
I'll answer your second question first. There are 2 types of vaccine. There are what we call therapeutic vaccines, which are vaccines that can be used to treat conditions. and there's the preventative vaccine.
Yeah, I've learned something new today. There we go.
For example, preventative vaccine, there is a vaccine for cervical cancer called Gardasil, for example. That's a preventive vaccine because people don't yet have the condition. You apply the product in the hope that you prevent the condition from happening, whereas ours is different. People already have the condition. Remember, I said stage 2 patients already have had surgery. And so we apply the product in order to delay or prevent, if possible, the recurrence of the condition.
The other part of the question was, of course, can this be used for other cancers?
I think at the moment it's a bit of a stretch. What we're doing is we're following the direction of developing cancer vaccines as a solution group. And this, we believe, is a validation of our research direction. And that's why that's the other reason why we're excited. Because it says to us that, well, this may be a viable direction to develop products which are safe and which can be effective. Generally speaking, effective for perhaps conditions which are slower in their development.
Now, what investors, I'm guessing, want to know, because they bought up your stock like crazy this week, what have you and your team worked out what the revenue boost would be?
Yeah, well, and how big is the market, really, ultimately, yeah?
First of all, there are 350,000 skin cancer melanoma patients around the world. 98,000 of those are in the United States alone. And so stage 2 patients, we believe, are about 10%, 12% of the total. But it is the largest group among the stages 2, 3, and 4. So stage 2 patients are actually stage 3 and 4 combined. Stage 3 and 4 is about 10, 11%, and stage 2 patients are about 12%. So that's a significant unmet medical need. Number one, there are a large number of patients. Number two, they don't really have much of a choice.
Last question, are you thinking of any kind of partnerships with other drug makers to market this vaccine?
Definitely. We're always on the market talking to partners, investors, and other...
Well, you're not going to tell us who.
Too early, I'm afraid.